All right, gentlemen, we are live.
Good evening. Welcome to the first ever Zoom Board of Adjustments meeting on March 25th, 2021 at 7:05 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. This meeting is being virtually due to COVID-19 virus and the recommendations of the Center for Disease Control, along with the state, city emergency proclamations that are in effect. Board members and city staff have joined the meeting on an online platform, and the public was notified they could view, participate, and listen to the meeting to the city's website. At this time, I'd like to have a roll call.
Good evening, members of the board. I will now take roll call. Board member Babcock?
Yes.
Board member Baker?
Yes.
Board member Huddleston?
Yes.
Board member Lawson?
Here.
Chairperson Keller?
Here. The first item on the agenda tonight will be the election of a chairperson and vice chair. At this time, the floor is open for nominations for anybody wishing to be appointed. Do I have any suggestions?
Chairperson, sorry, excuse me. I'd just like to mention that we do have a quorum. Now to end roll call.
Okay. And at this time, we'll go ahead and proceed with the election of the chairperson and a vice chairperson. Anybody wishing to make a nomination can make that separately, and a vote will be cast at the end. Any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Bob Keller to be chairman.
Any additional nominations for vice chairman? At this time, Joe, who is our current vice chairman? Do we have one? Joel, did you hear me? Hello, Joel? Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. I'm trying to contact Joel right now to see what's going on. So I'll let him know that none of us can hear him.
I can fill in, I believe, for that. We also do not have a vice chairperson.
Okay.
Bob, I will nominate myself as a candidate for vice chair. Doug
Okay.
Baker.
Doug Baker. If we don't have any other suggestions, I guess we would go ahead and take a roll call for a vote for the two suggested people, Bob Keller as chairperson and Doug Baker for vice chairperson at this time. Joe, back on. Sue, can you hear me?
Yes.
Huh.
We're working on it. I just contacted Joel, so I think he's
Okay.
aware of the situation. So the joys of doing this electronically.
Yeah.
At this point, if Joel, if you can hear us, maybe try muting and then unmuting yourself. And if that doesn't work, you might, there you went on mute. Now you're off mute. Can you hear us? Can you speak? All right. Then what I would suggest, Joel, if you would just drop off and then reconnect, that should resolve. Oh, wait, you're the meeting.
You can't.
Yeah, he can't. And his phone is being tied up because he's in contact with Mr. Babcock.
Oh, get
Well-
back there.
Chris, he can switch, he can allow you to be a co-host or switch it over to you.
That is a good idea. Or maybe kick it to Jake or myself. If he does that, then he should be able to drop off and come back onto the call.
Son of a gun.
All right, he just did that. I am the co-host. So Joel should be able to drop off and reconnect, and that would fix this problem, hopefully. So we'll just take a real brief pause right here in the middle, Mr. Chair, if that's okay, and we'll
Okay.
get Joel back online. All right, looks like Mr. Hornicle or Director Hornicle is making some progress. I show that he's dropped, and hopefully he will reconnect here shortly. Because right now I see Mr. Keller holding this meeting like I would have done about a year ago when my family was home in the garage.
That's like I said, I'm in Columbus, Ohio at my son's house. I have to go somewhere.
I think, Mr. Keller, you have made history for a Branson meeting. You are the first person to do it from out of state. So congratulations.
Yeah,
This one's going to go down in the record books.
While we wait,
Everybody, it looks like we brought the big guns in. We now have the director of IT connecting in. So this is encouraging. So hopefully Miss Director Forrester can get this thing all figured out. Again, our apologies to everybody. Seems like when everything we plan, we test this and it works, something's always bound to break when we try to do it live.
The way it goes.
board members and chair,
Okay.
oh, is he back?
I'm back. If everybody can hear me, hopefully.
We
Yeah,
can, Joel.
I do this from City Hall because it has reliable internet, and the internet at City Hall must have gone out because everything's shut down on my end. So I really apologize to everybody. So let me just get us back set up here.
Joel, I tried to look for hold music during this hearing and I couldn't find that option in Zoom. So we'll need to visit with Director Forrester about that after this.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. All right, I think we are back up and running. Apologies, Mr. Chairperson.
Okay, here's where we are, Joe. We've had a nomination for Bob Keller for chairperson, and we've had a nomination for vice chairperson, Doug Baker, but I need a second to proceed with that, I believe.
No, we can just take nominations for this. We don't need
Okay,
seconds.
well, we have two, and we're ready to move forward with that nomination.
Okay, Jake, if you could call roll for the nominations.
Yes. So we will call roll for each one individually, starting with chairperson. Oh, so now start. Board member Babcock,
Aye.
board member Baker,
Muted, Doug.
Yes, aye.
board member Huddleston,
Yes.
board member Lawson,
Aye.
chairperson Keller.
Yes,
Vote passes 5-5. We will now take vote for the vice chairperson. Board member Babcock,
Aye.
board member Baker,
Aye.
board member Huddleston,
Yes.
board member Lawson,
Aye.
chairperson Keller.
yes.
Vote passes 5 votes.
That leaves us with a confirmation of Bob Keller as chairperson and vice chair as Doug Baker. Moving on to item number 1, approval of minutes. I will now enter a motion to approve the minutes from the November 15th, 2018 and the February 25th, 2021 Board of Adjustment meetings. I need a board member to motion to move.
Make the motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I guess I would second it.
Any discussion for Board of Adjustments? I'd like to call for a vote at this time.
Thank you, chairperson. We'll call vote. Board member Babcock,
Yes.
board member Baker,
Yes.
board member Huddleston,
Yes.
board member Lawson,
Can I abstain since I was not at either meeting?
yes, you may. Chairperson
So
Keller,
moved. Yes. Moving on to item number 2. I will now call agenda item number 2, request for a variance, which was filed by the applicant, Paul, I don't want to butcher this, that Waplik Replica on behalf of the Telecom Realty Consultants LLC. Will the secretary please provide the introduction for this item?
Mr. Chairperson, this is a request for a variance for the property located at 250 South Wildwood Drive, Branson, Missouri.
Before we proceed, please note that we are recording tonight's meeting so that in case of an appeal, it can be transcribed. Before you speak during this public meeting, we will have you sworn in by the secretary. Once she is finished, we will ask you to then please state and spell your name for the record and give your address. Who will be speaking tonight for,
Chairperson, if you could, number 4 there at this time, open the public hearing.
okay. At this time, I will now open the public hearing for Telecon Realty Consultants LLC. Paul Waplica request for a variance. We will first hear a report on this variance from the city staff. Then we will hear a report from the applicant. This will be followed by public comments. Everybody who wishes to speak on this matter tonight will have an opportunity to be heard. We ask that you be mindful of everyone's time and refrain from making comments that are repetitive. And we ask that members of the public please try to keep your individual comments to 5 minutes or less. Planning Director Hornicle, do you have a report on behalf of the city staff?
I do.
I will swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I did.
Thank you. Chairperson, members of the board, on behalf of staff, the first thing I'd like to do is I would like to enter our staff report that has been provided, as well as our exhibits that are labeled Exhibit 1 through Exhibit 7 into tonight's record. Mr. Chairperson, if you would be willing to accept those.
So approved and moved.
The next thing I would like to do is I'd like to enter in the Branson Municipal Code Book into the record, a copy of which is available in the city clerk's office here at City Hall.
These also shall be entered and approved. And
Thank you. The first thing I'd actually like to do is just get everybody oriented to the property in tonight's request. I've brought up the vicinity map on our screen this evening, and the subject property is outlined in red. The property is approximately 2 acres, and it is located on the east side of Wildwood Drive, just south of Green Mountain Drive. This property is currently zoned community commercial, and the adjacent properties are also zoned community commercial to the north, west, and south. However, the property to the east is currently zoned mixed use, and I'm referencing here Exhibit 2. Next, I'm going to pull up a site plan that was provided by our applicant. This site plan shows a proposed 135-foot tall monopole telecommunications tower within a fenced-in area of approximately 60 feet by 60 feet, or 3,600 square feet. This proposed area or site, as well as the tower, will have the ability for 4 leasable spaces. As you see in the site plan, it's centrally located within the property, and it will have access provided through a 14-foot wide access easement from Wildwood Drive. I do want to note that while the tower is proposed to be 135 feet, the top 5 feet of the monopole tower is a 5-foot tall lightning rod. The city does not consider this part of the proposed structure, so therefore the variance is only for 30 additional feet above the 100 feet that is the maximum height required or allowed within the community commercial district within the city. If approved for this variance, they would be required to provide additional setback for the monopole structure. This would equate to 40 feet of additional setback on the front, the rear, and the sides. Going back to the request itself, it is a variance request from Section 94-42C within the Branson Municipal Code. I'm going to go back to our staff report to reference the table within this section of code. This is the dimensional standards for our community commercial district. You will note on the far right that, again, as I mentioned previously, the maximum allowable height is 100 feet. You also see under the note about additional setback, and this is the information that we just went through. I do also want to make note that the applicant has reached out to both the FAA and the FCC, or the Federal Aviation, I'm sorry, the Federal Aviation Administration, as well as the Federal Communications Commission, about their request, and they have fulfilled all the documentation at this point and provided it to the city. We do get questions from time to time when anything in excess of 100 feet is located within a close distance to the downtown airport, the M. Graham Clark Downtown Airport. However, being that this is under 200-foot threshold, it is not necessary for them to provide lighting on the tower. I next want to reference the Community Plan 2030, Figure 4, within that document. This is known as our highly visible hillsides document. The proposed location, which I'll move the cursor or the hand to, is located approximately in this location. This is designated on this figure as being somewhat visible. What that means is that this location within the community is only visible from between 0 to 1% of our visible locations on our major corridors. So in other words, it's not highly visible, it's only somewhat visible within the community, its location. We also provide in our staff report some other elevations for reference within the community. But anyone in the community will realize that the height is in between the height of the Highway 76 or West 76 Country Boulevard corridor and the Fall Creek Road corridor. The last thing I'd like to make note of is the applicant has gotten a special use permit approved by the city's planning commission back in February 2nd of this year. The planning commission is able to issue that special use permit for a height of 100 feet. Given that the request is for 130 feet, again, that is why we're here this evening before you all asking for this variance. As a result, staff does recommend granting the variance to the applicant from Branson Municipal Code Section 94-42C dimensions to allow the 130-foot tall monopole telecommunications tower within this property located at 250 South Wildwood Drive. Allowing the proposed structure to be constructed 30 feet above the maximum height allowed in the community commercial district is based on the applicant's efforts to explore alternative sites within the community for providing cellular coverage. Additionally, while the applicant only has one provider prepared to utilize the proposed tower, there will be an opportunity for 3 other carriers to co-locate on this tower, reducing the need for any additional towers within the same vicinity or viewshed. I also would like to make a point that this group, the Board of Adjustment, has in the past, both in November of 2015 and in May of 2016, approved similar requests to exceed the 100-foot height within the community commercial district. The first one was in excess of 46 feet, and the second was in excess of 90 feet. So this request is a lesser amount requested for a variance than both of those. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the staff's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Joel. We will now hear from the applicant regarding their request. Will the applicant please give us your name and address for the records? Please raise your right hand to be sworn in by the secretary.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Vincent O'Flaherty. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I will be testifying for the applicant. My last name is spelled O', F as in Frank, L-A-H-E-R-T-Y, and my address is 3637 Main Street, Kansas City, Missouri, 64111.
Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Now do the oath. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Clarity. Will you please proceed with your request for tonight's meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, board members. Again, my name is Vince O'Flaherty. I'm a Missouri lawyer. I represent the applicant. Mr. Paul Rablica is president of the applicant and is here with me at his offices in the Kansas City area this evening. We appear before you tonight with a request that you grant a height variance of 30 feet to a total height from 100 foot to 130 foot to construct a telecommunications tower and facility at the location 250 South Wildwood Drive, Branson, Missouri. My client and I have worked closely with the Planning Commission over the last several months in terms of finding an acceptable location and coming to an acceptable height for this tower. And as Joel mentioned, the commission did in fact grant a special use permit, knowing that we would be coming before you on this variance. Staff does recommend the variance request, and we ask that you agree and grant the variance. If I may provide you a little more detail and then show you some physical photographs that are in the report, I would like to do so. First of all, this tower as proposed is a 130-foot monopole, and it will accommodate 4 wireless carriers. One carrier has committed, and as I'm sure you can appreciate, others will commit once they know the site has been approved and is being built. But at the present time, we do have one committed. This tract of land is one that my client has spent a lot of time researching. It is undeveloped woods, and it is within the community commercial zoning district. There is a need for improved wireless capacity in this particular area to service the needs and growing needs along the West 76 Country Corridor and surrounding Green Mountain and Wildwood areas. If approved, this tower will improve voice and data communications for the 5G network that is being brought online across the country. This location, one of the reasons it was selected was that we were able to meet the setback requirements and other requirements that the city has for community commercial districts. And this meets all of those requirements except with respect to the height. And let me talk a little bit about the specifics of the height. My client needs this extra 30 foot to achieve the sufficient capacity to carry the wireless communications as explained to us by the network engineers who have existing locations in this vicinity. If the request were to be denied and the tower was limited to 100 foot, my client, that extra 30 feet, would lose more than 20%, almost 1/4 of its ability to function and carry the capacity needed, and would make this site at 100 feet undesirable for future 5G network needs. Now, we're only asking for 30 feet so as to be as low as possible to achieve the network needs, and we have been assured at 130 feet we will achieve those needs, as well as satisfy FAA and FCC requirements with respect to height and navigable air. Joel has mentioned we have run the traps with the FAA and have been advised at the 130-foot level, we will not present any hazard to navigable air traffic. At the Planning Commission a couple months ago, there were questions raised by the public concerning visibility. Would the tower be visible from 76 Highway? And after that hearing, my client and I discussed and did in fact hire a drone photographer to take some drone photographs for us. And Joel, I believe that's Exhibit 3 of the commission's package. If you would mind going to that, please, the first photograph on page 1. And I don't know if you can enlarge that a little bit, but board members, this is a photograph supplied by my client to the commission. It's an aerial photograph. We have yellow pins on the photograph to show certain locations in which photographs were taken, as well as to also show you a few other things. And Joel, if you could point to the yellow pin furthest to the left.
Oh.
Yes. Board members, that's the existing site. It's a water tower site that network carriers are working from. And that's the overloaded site that capacity is needed and why our tower is needed. Joel, if you could now go to the pin furthest to the right on that photograph. That's a second existing site that is also part of the network. And as you can see, Joel, if you could now circle where our tower location is. This location's right in the middle of those two locations and helps the coverage. The other 5 pins are all along 76 Highway, and we will show you some additional photographs, but for reference points, you'll see that we tried to take pictures from ground level along 76 Highway, looking in the direction of where our tower will be built, for purposes of determining, can it be seen from Highway 76? And so if we could go to the first photograph, the next page, please. If I can help explain, this is the photograph that shows up at the top, yellow pin at the top of that page. This is the vicinity where the next photograph is taken from. You'll see that is where the photographer was standing. You'll see the Radisson Hotel is marked there in the middle. And then the lower pin on the right is the proposed tower. What we asked our drone photographer to do was to take his drone, place it at our location, and fly it up 350 feet. And you'll see he has circled on that photograph the drone at 350 feet. And we provide that to you to show, therefore, standing at that location at 130 feet, the tower would not be visible from 76. The next photograph, please, Joel. This photograph at the top, you'll see the pin on the right. It's a little further east than our last photograph. You'll see the location, the price chopper, and again at the bottom is where the tower location would be. And if you go to the next photo, please, Joel. The drone photographer took that picture from a height level of 330 feet. And again, as you can see, a tower lower than that at 130 feet would not be observable from Highway 76. Then the third photograph, please. We're now going a little further west down 76 Boulevard, and I think you understand what we're doing. Go to the next photograph. So we took these photographs in the middle part of February of this year, and you can see that photograph, 400 foot. In the winter months, you might be able to see through. In the spring, summer, and fall with foliage on the trees and along the area, 130-foot tower would not be visible. Next photograph, please. Again, going west down 76. Next photograph, please. Here's a photograph. Now that's 400 feet. Even in full foliage, 400 feet would be visible. If you come down to 130 foot, it would barely be visible, even from that location. But that's what that would look like. In the next photograph, this is the furthest west photograph that we took, and we put in a mark where Landry Seafood's located to help orient you. And that height now this would be looking to the east over where Landry's is. You can see at 280 foot, that would be where it'd be visible. So 130 feet, the Landry's building from 76 Highway, it would not be visible. And Joel, I think that's our last photograph, is it not? Yeah. So in terms of visibility, the purpose of those photographs that we'd like to impress upon you as board members is there will be negligible to almost no visibility of the height of this tower from 76 Highway, but it will significantly improve and assist overloaded wireless capacity along the corridor. That will be the end of the photographs and really is the end of my presentation. We would ask that you approve this grant of variance, and thank you for your time. I'll be glad, and my client would be glad to address any specific questions.
I have a question. Yeah, I'm just curious with understanding at a basic level that cell phone towers are operating on line of sight. How can this tower actually help by be below line of sight? It's obvious to me from your pictures, it's fairly low into that valley. How's that actually going to help? And then my second question for Joel, or somebody from the city, how tall are the water towers on each end where the pictures were taken?
Joel, you want to go first or you want me to?
You can go ahead.
Those were excellent questions. The line of sight is from the existing water tower to our site, where that will be a clear line of sight that then helps transmit along the Highway 76 corridor. It's not so much the transmission from the corridor to our tower, it's more to help the capacity at the existing water tower.
And Vice Chairperson Baker, I am not aware of the exact heights of those water towers that were shown in the applicant's imagery. It's some information we can get to you, but obviously we don't have it available this evening. I apologize.
That's all right. It was just curious. I was trying to get an idea. The drone photos were very helpful, and I really appreciate that. That was a great idea. I wouldn't have thought of something like that. But I was trying to get an idea and really kind of understand how the line of sight is. But I believe that question's been answered for me. So thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wanting to speak on this from a hearing request from the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kevin Huddleston. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Mr. O'Flaherty, you stated that the 130 feet was determined by the network engineers. What is the primary driver of that determinant? Is it elevation above ground, or is it like main sea level, or what's the driver for that?
My client's here, and I may refer a little bit to him if you don't
Okay.
mind. He's gonna, can you answer that, Paul? Sure. And
I just want to, we will have to swear Paul in.
Paul's ready.
Thank you, Paul. Will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
For the record, my name is Paul Rablica, spelled Wrablica. Offices are at 3864 West 75th Street, Prairie Village, Kansas. In terms of the elevation of the tower, that is based on the ground elevation of the area, the overall terrain, and then the integration of the network with the new location.
Okay. How much does co-location play into that?
Well, the tower is built for co-location, but the height request of 130 feet is to accommodate the initial user, and that was their minimum location or their minimum elevation to make it work.
Okay, so the 130 feet is for the single user primarily. And then if others want to co-locate, you will accommodate that. I understand. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, I know Board Member Lawson has had his hand up as well. I believe he has a question.
Yes, this is Jim Lawson of the applicant. What is the hardship that you're trying to seek? It's like, well, you know, you do not even have your other carriers lined up, so it's like you're trying to create a market. And I misunderstood, because I thought you had said before that the 100 feet would be for the first carrier, and the others would be added. But that's not what you just. That's not what Paul says. So could you clarify that?
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry if there was any misunderstanding, but the 130 foot is needed for the first carrier that has committed, and they need that for their capacity and their network needs. The rest of the tower is available to 3 other tenants, each of whom may have different network and different network needs, and can locate at lower heights.
And the reason that when you went to the planning commission, you asked for 100 was because that was all that they could grant?
Yes, sir. And when we were before the planning commission, it was very clear we needed 130 feet. And we told them that we were coming to you and had already applied for a variance to you.
Okay, thank you.
Does any other board members have any questions of the applicant? With that, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Hear from, At this time, we will hear from anyone else regarding the requests. Is there anyone from the public signed up to speak in regards to this request tonight?
Mr. Chairperson, we did not receive any requests from the public to speak tonight.
So noted. At this time, everybody present and wishing to speak regarding the matter has been given an opportunity to speak. I will now close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion between board members. If necessary, you may ask specific clarifying questions of staff, the applicant, or anybody who has spoken. Any questions or comments from any board members? With no comments, I will now enter a motion regarding the board's action on the filed variance.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kevin Huddleston. I would make that motion to approve the request.
Do I have a second?
Doug Baker will make a second.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and clarify that. Is this on the Kevin Huddleston's, I will move the board approve the applicant's variance for the Branson Municipal Code 94-42C for property located at 250 South Wildwood Drive. And I have a second. Any further for discussion? Can we please call for a vote?
Chairperson, now call vote. Board Member Keller,
Can you repeat that?
Chairperson Keller,
Yes.
thank you. Vice Chairperson Baker,
Yes.
Board Member Babcock,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson,
No.
Board Member Huddleston.
Yes.
Motion has passed 4-1.
So we had a forum with 4 votes, so it is approved, correct, Joel?
That is correct. The variance request has been approved.
Okay. With that, we're going to move on to item number 3. I will now call agenda item number 3, a request for a variance, which was filed by the applicant, John Hustler of the Building Group LLC on behalf of the property owner, Ryan Androl. Will Secretary please provide an introduction for this item?
Chairperson. This is a request for a variance for the property located at 200 Barkley Lane, Branson, Missouri.
Before we proceed, please note that we are recording tonight's meeting, so in case an appeal, it can be transcribed. Before you speak during this public hearing, we will have you sworn in by the secretary. Once he has finished, we will ask you to then please state and spell your name for the record and give your address. At this time, I will now open the public hearing for Ryan Androl and John Hustler request for a variance. We will first hear a report on this variance from the city staff. Then we will hear a report from the applicant. This will be followed by public comments. Everyone who wishes to speak on this matter tonight will have an opportunity to be heard. We ask that you be mindful of everyone's time and refrain from making comments that are repetitive. And we ask the members of the public, please try to keep your individual comments to 5 minutes or less. Planning Director Hornicle, do you have a report on behalf of the city staff?
I do.
Director, I will now swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, first, I'd like to first enter in our staff report, including our exhibits 1 through 5 into the record.
So noted and entered.
The next thing I'd like to do is also enter in our copy of our Branson Municipal Code Book, which a copy is available within the city clerk's office here at City Hall.
Also noted and entered.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to just get everybody oriented on the location of tonight's request. It is located at 200 Barkley Lane, and it's on the screen here outlined in purple. The property is approximately an acre, and it is currently zoned low-density residential. The other properties that you can see within the city limits are also zoned low-density residential. You will note on the aerial several properties that have a faded out or whitewash appearance. those are properties that are located outside the city limits. So this property happens to be right on the edge of our city limits. This property had a detached single-family structure constructed on the property in 2020. They did receive a temporary certificate of occupancy from the city on March 11th of this year. The reason for it not receiving a full certificate of occupancy is due to this outstanding item, which is part of this request before you all. That request specifically is for the applicant to be allowed to construct a gravel driveway to the single-family home within the property, as opposed to the 2 inches of asphalt or 4 inches of concrete as required by the Branson Municipal Code in section 94-88B2. The applicant did submit a site plan to the city as part of their building permit, which I've brought up now on the screen for you all to see. Again, the property, north being to the left of this graphic, with the home located in the northern half of the property. And you can see the driveway connecting the home out to Barkley here. The driveway that was presented on this site plan and approved by staff for the building permit is approximately 225 feet long and 13 feet 6 inches wide. This is depicted in Exhibit 3 of our staff report. There was no mention of gravel on this site plan, and so gravel was not brought up until the applicant was trying to final out the property. We believe that the timing of the request would have been more appropriate to you all at the beginning of the process, as opposed to the end, now that the home is constructed and they're trying to get a certificate of occupancy. Within the Branson Municipal Code, we have Chapter 94, which has our development and zoning standards. Within that chapter, we have Article 6, which pertains to off-street parking regulations. Within that article, one of the stated purposes is to minimize the detrimental effects of vehicular use areas on adjacent properties. Additionally, within this article, the applicability of the regulations state that off-street parking spaces shall be provided for all new buildings and structures. It goes on to state in this Article 4 that parking spaces required for dwellings shall be located on the same parcel or site as the main dwelling and located either in a garage or on a paved driveway or parking area. Finally, it states within this article that parking spaces created in residential districts shall not occupy any part of any required front yard except for the driveway, and parking on a non-paved surface in the front yard shall be prohibited. As a result of this information, the staff recommends denial of the variance from Branson Municipal Code Section 94-88B2 for residential parking design and materials, which would have allowed a 225-foot gravel driveway within the property located at 200 Barkley Lane. While some gravel driveways do exist within the city prior to the regulations that have been established that I've read to you tonight, it has been the city's long-standing and consistent approach to require residential driveways to be paved no matter their length. This approach is supported and required by Branson Municipal Code Section 94-86. We just want to make note that if allowed, gravel may be while it may be more of an economical choice, it will have a negative effect on the city's streets, stormwater, and aesthetics. We also ask for your consideration that if approved, similar requests are anticipated and will be difficult to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harticle. We will now hear from the applicant regarding their request. Will the applicant please give us your name and address for the records? Please raise your right hand to be sworn in by the secretary.
You solemnly swear. You go ahead and give your name and information, sir.
My name is Gary Nelson. I'm an equity partner in the building group, filling in for John Holsizer, who's accepting an award tonight, but does send his regards.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Will you now please present your request?
Yes, thank you for your time. Our primary argument for this approval is that the property was originally purchased outside of the city limits, but needed to be annexed to connect city water and sewer. The driveway is lengthy, over 200 feet, and there was no way to build the home closer to the street due to those setbacks. And as mentioned, other driveways in the area are gravel, and the property has been constructed and sold and closed with a gravel driveway. A new driveway would incur the cost of the builders $30,000 to $40,000 for that length of a driveway. That is all my comments.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
This is Jim Lawson, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question. I'm a little confused because you knew that in order to get water and sewer, you had to come into the city. At that point, did you not try to determine what the requirements would be?
I didn't have a direct involvement in that decision, so I can't give you an exact answer on whether that was looked into to your standards or not, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other?
Sure, I have a question.
Okay.
You referred to other gravel driveways. Are those in the city or not?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
You referred to there being other gravel driveways in the neighborhood. Are they in the city or the county?
Oh, I see, within the city limit map. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that exact answer either to say it's one way or another. I don't have that prepared with me today.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board for the owner? Thank you. We will now hear from anyone else regarding the request. Is there anyone from the public signed up to speak in regards to this request?
Mr. Chairperson, we did not receive any requests from the public for this request.
Thank you, Joel. At this time, everybody present and wishing to speak regarding this matter has been given an opportunity to speak. We will now close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion between board members. If necessary, you may ask specific clarifying questions of staff, the applicant, or anybody who has spoken. Any questions for discussion from the board members? With no questions, I will now entertain a motion regarding board action on the filed variance.
Mr. Chairman, I was just getting ready to ask a question if that's still possible.
Yes.
All right, this is Kevin Huddleston. Joel, of the existing unpaved driveways in the area, are these pre-existing, outside the city limits, both? How would you characterize those?
Again, without an exact inventory of this area, it's our understanding that those that are within the city limits are paved and those that are outside the city limits are not. There are, I believe, at least one property that is in the city limits, however, that was developed out in the county and annexed later and well before the regulations I provided earlier, so that we would consider that a non-conforming situation.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say a couple of things if I can. I drove the area and I didn't write down exactly, but over 90%, I would say, of that area have concrete driveways. They are not 200 feet long, but the property that's right next door to this particular property has a paved driveway, and the house across the street has a paved driveway. And then I drove into the property so I could see the house and how it all worked. And I had to put it in 4-wheel drive to get out of the gravel driveway. It's very, very steep. And I don't know how you're going to deal with drainage and that type of thing with a gravel a driveway. And I agree with the staff, having been a staff member for many years, if you let someone put in a gravel driveway, that will be the beginning of a lot of people wanting to have a gravel driveway, because it doesn't cost as much, but it creates problems. And also for the future owner who may not be aware of what kind of drainage and other issues are going to be taking place.
Mr. Chairperson, I believe you're muted still.
Doug Baker had a question for staff.
Okay, any other questions, Doug?
Joel, can you help me? I'm usually pretty good about reading topographic maps, but it looks like there's a little draw in there. So that is a downhill slope coming from Barclay Avenue towards where the house would be, towards the back. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. So another good thing to look at to understand topography is the sewer lines, and those are identified in the graphic we have on the screen in green. It is the best, most efficient way to lay out sewer systems to be following the low areas of the valleys. That way the sewage can flow with gravity and doesn't nearly cost as much money. So yes, given the sewer line for this property is to the north or the rear of the property, that is the general direction it falls from the street back to the sewer line.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, so if a person were to buy this home or purchase this home, the second owner, and with the gravel driveway, I don't understand, do certificates of occupancy have to be issued when a home changes? Or is there anything that the second owner would encounter if this is approved and we leave it with the gravel driveway? Is there something that's going to catch a subsequent owner off guard for not having a driveway that's up to city code?
Well, we're actually quite stumped ourselves how the property was able to be sold without a certificate of occupancy issued. It's common practice, our understanding that banks and realtors and title companies will ensure when a new home is sold from the builder to the new property owner, that those things are all in place. Again, we're not sure how this new constructed home was sold without a certificate of occupancy. We have been working with the new owner as well as the builder to try and get a certificate of occupancy issued for the structure. We've come very close. All of the building matters have been completed, and there just remains some outdoor issues, including this driveway. And because the applicant did make this request, we got to the point where we were comfortable issuing a temporary certificate of occupancy that would expire at the end of this month, barring the decision of you all tonight. If the gravel driveway was approved, it would become an allowed situation because of your all's decision. And that would be a decision of record that would run with this property, that would allow it to remain gravel forever, essentially.
Yep.
Jim, you did say that was a fairly steep drive. Does the staff have an idea on what the slope of the drive is or what the gradient is?
No, we do not have that measurement. We just have the length and the width of the driveway.
Does the applicant have, John, do you have a idea of what the slope or the gradient of that driveway is?
Yeah, I apologize. As a fill-in for John, I have limited information, so no, sir, I do not have that exact data for you this evening.
Doug,
Thank you.
Doug, this is Jim Lawson. I can't tell you what the grades are, but I can describe it. It's got a general slope to it as you're going down the drive. Then right before you get to the house, maybe 40, 50 feet, then it is a severe drop. Now, whether or not they could grade all that out, but the gravel is there now. And that was the thing that concerned me, because it appeared the water would run down that slope right into the house. But that's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Jim. That was my concern because I've had a house that I lived in that occurred, and it was out in the county, but I did have similar issues with water flowing into my house.
Chairperson Kelly, there you go.
I'm back on. I got dropped. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts from anybody on the board? Joel, is somebody actually living in the house?
Yes, we believe that the property owner has moved in. However, he has been traveling. He has had some family issues, so he's been traveling. But he is well aware of the expiration date of the temporary occupancy permit.
Wow. Okay.
Joel, is there
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chairperson.
Go ahead.
Joel, is there a provision that if we decline the variance, for them to provide a contract showing that the driveway is going to be completed within a certain time, that the temporary permit of occupancy could be extended?
Yes, absolutely. We would definitely work with the property owner on a reasonable timeline, and continue to let that temporary certificate of occupancy be in place until such time where the driveway is complete. Another option to the city that's allowed in the Branson Municipal Code Book is for the property owner or builder to place a deposit in the amount of the driveway cost, and that would allow us to then issue a certificate of occupancy, and we would release that bond once the driveway is complete. So we have a couple options, but we will definitely work with the property owner regardless of the result of tonight's meeting.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Can you hear me, Joel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, I'll now entertain a motion regarding the board on the action of the variance. The motion should be worded as follows. I move that the board approve the applicant's variance from Branson Municipal Code 94-88B2 for the property located at 200 Barclay Lane. Approve that.
Yeah, we always have to do our motions in the positive.
Okay. So at this time, any further discussion? I call for a vote.
Well,
Motion.
I want to clarify something, Joe, before we vote. A vote for a yes would approve the gravel driveway, correct?
Yes, we will need a motion and a second, but yes, a yes vote would allow the gravel driveway. A no vote would require the code requirements of asphalt or concrete.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. Then let's go ahead and call for a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
We'll need those motions.
Do I have a second?
Who made the
Do I have a
motion?
second?
I'm not sure. Did somebody make a motion?
So chairperson,
Joel,
Let's
Chairperson-
back up.
this is Kevin. I will put this in action if that's what we need to. I'll make the motion to approve
Okay,
West.
okay.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Sorry, Chairperson, who is the second?
that was Jim Babcock.
Mr. Babcock?
Thank you.
Okay, and just to clarify this, I'm going to read this one more time. I move that the board approve the applicant's variance from Branson Municipal Code, section 94-88B2 for the property located at 200 Barclay Lane. At this time, we're going to call for a vote.
Open vote. Chairperson Keller,
No.
Vice Chairperson Baker,
No.
Board Member Babcock,
No,
Board Member Lawson,
No,
Board Member Hudson.
No.
Motion's been defeated.
We are now advised by our attorney that our decision needs to be in writing and it is preferred that it is accompanied by findings of fact and conclusions of law. Therefore, I will enter a motion to direct the city attorney to prepare our final readings of fact and conclusions of law consistent with our decision to deny the requested variance for the property
200 Barclay.
200 Barclay Lane, Branson, Missouri.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second
second.
that.
Did you get that? Second was by Huddleston? Or
Motion was by
Babcock?
Babcock. Thank you.
Okay. We'll call for a vote.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes.
Board Member Babcock,
Yes,
Vice Chairperson Baker,
Yes.
Board Member Huddleston,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson,
yes,
Chairperson Keller.
Yes.
Motion has passed. 5 votes.
That
Thank you,
concludes
Mr.
the
Chair.
item scheduled for the Board of Adjustment meeting. I will now enter a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second was by Huddleston. All in favor? Say aye. I will now enter a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion?
So move, Babcock.
Do I have a second?
So move, Lawson.
The meeting of the Board of Justice, call for a vote, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Now call vote. Board Member Babcock,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Baker,
Yes.
Board Member Huddleston,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson,
Yes.
Chairperson Keller.
Yes. The meeting of the Board of Adjustments is adjourned at 8:20. Thank you. This meeting.
Thank you all. I really appreciate your patience this evening. Not an ideal way to do this by any stretch, but thank you all. Good to see you on the computer, and let's hope we can get back to doing this in person the next time we have to do this.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue.
Get me out of here. Leave me.